Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cruise News Show. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise updates. Well, can I tease you with the headlines? The most exciting headline, 36 cruise ships set to restart cruising in the United States. We'll talk about that in a minute. Norwegian Cruise Lines cancels, most of the first quarter. I've got another update about Norwegian. Royal Caribbean has revealed who their test cruisers will be, or at least the priority of their test cruisers. And I thought it might be fun to have a little bit of a discussion about when cruising really should start. Should the cruise lines wait a little longer than they are, or should they jump right into it? We're going to cover all that on today's show. Breaking news, breaking cruise news. Couldn't even get through the show. Royal Caribbean has canceled their cruises also. I just put out an update about it, but now it's later in time. Anyways, wanted to make sure I included it in this show. Royal Caribbean canceling its cruises for January and February of 2021. They do have a few cruise ships that will continue to sail. The Quantum of the Seas, the Spectrum of the Seas, they'll be sailing in Singapore and in China, and all Australia and New Zealand Royal Caribbean cruises canceled through April 2021. So, we're going to talk about it later in the show. Big conversation about cruise ships getting ready to sail. And to take it with a grain of salt. It stinks on cancellation day, but good things are coming. I'll get you back into the regular show now. Make sure you stick toward the end because there's a really great cruise news story that should uplift your spirits. And so, I didn't want to not include in this show just a reminder of what I've already reported. Royal Caribbean also canceling today. So sad. Back to the show. First, let's jump into some cancellation news. Norwegian Cruise Line releasing a statement this morning, canceling all of their U.S. sailings for January, February, and honestly, most of March. I released that little short video earlier, just giving a little bit of a tease to the cancellation. I've dipped into it deeper, and all of the March sailings are suspended also, except for 3 cruise ships. The 3 cruise ships that have not canceled their sailings for March, the Norwegian Escape, the Norwegian Encore, and the Norwegian Joy. Interestingly, I'm on the Norwegian Encore in March in Alaska, of all places. So interestingly, the Alaska cruise did not get canceled today, still scheduled for the Encore in March. That was a little bit shocking, I'll be honest. But the rest of the Norwegian cruises taken off of the board for first quarter, Q1, 3 months gone of 2021 with very little or no Norwegian cruises. A lot of people got canceled today. That's a bummer. We commiserate together. Mine didn't get canceled, but I'm not holding my breath. Here's a little tidbit that I did not tease. Another Disney cruise ship has made its way back to the United States. The Disney Fantasy returning to Florida to get ready to try some test cruises. Now we know that the CDC has a very complex conditional framework for the return to sailing, but you know what the CDC doesn't have any control over? Whether or not you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Stick it to the man. Show the CDC they're not the boss of you. Subscribe here to Lido Loca. Get the latest cruise news updates. Subscribe with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these shows. But the reality is the CDC is currently the gatekeeper. They are holding all of the keys. Maybe they're the key master also for the resumption of cruising. But something exciting has happened. There are 36 cruise ships in the framework, 36 cruise ships trying to get certified so that they can resume cruising. The CDC has had a running list of cruise ships that are operating in U.S. waters or plan to operate in U.S. waters. One of the first hurdles they've had to tackle is how do they deal with their crew members from a perspective of getting them on the cruise ship or repatriating them back to their country in the event of some sort of emergency. They've come up with a color system, the green, yellow, and red system, and they have a weekly update to this chart that shows which cruise ships are where in the process. Cruise lines and the CDC have been working on this part of the process since before the no-sail order expired on October the 30th, but this process does become the foundational piece of the framework for conditional sailing. Any cruise ship that wants to move through the framework has to get this crew piece right. And what's exciting looking at this chart are all of the ships that have a green status. Having a green status does not guarantee that these cruise ships will be the cruise ships that do the test cruises, but it does mean they can be the ships that do the test cruises. You do see a few ships there that have a red status. Cruise lines are working to make sure that they have everything submitted properly, that they're doing the right thing. CDC is inspecting their plans to get those red statuses turned to green. You know, Carnival Cruise Line's got to be feeling the pressure. The only cruise ship that they have in this list is in a red status, and so if they plan on doing a test sailing, say with the Horizon, they've got to get that red status turned from red to green. This is big news. If we look at it in the context of Norwegian's cancellation, Norwegian canceled cruises for paying passengers, but there has to be test cruises before they can take on paying passengers. And now you've got several Norwegian cruise ships on this list that have a green status that can move into the next phase of the framework, which is the test sailings. This is exciting stuff. It's almost hard to count the number of Royal Caribbean ships that are in the green status. So stuff is happening from a test cruise perspective. So there is a lot popping off when it comes to the resumption of cruising. There's a lot going on with the cruise ship statuses. And again, this will be updated weekly. This shows a conversation. This shows the working between the cruise industry and the CDC. This is motion. This is the resumption of cruising. This is cruise ships working their way through the conditional framework. This is exciting stuff. Exciting stuff. Tons of Royal Caribbean cruise ships on this list. And there's news coming out of the International Cruise Summit that is being held in Madrid, Spain. Royal Caribbean International CEO and President Michael Bailey revealing who will be tapped as test cruisers. Who will they pull from their Volunteers of the Seas pool to put them on these test cruises? Well, it's the Royal Loyal, and it's the people that are high up in the Royal Loyalty program. The Pinnacle members will be tapped first, given the first opportunity to jump on these test cruises. So from the average Joe crowd, the people that will be picked are those that are most Royal Loyal, and it makes sense. These are probably the people that will be most kind in their reviews. And yes, so if you're way up the chain in the Royal Loyalty program and you put your name in the hat, there's a chance that you'll get to be a test cruiser. So interesting cruise news. We got the cancellations. We got all these cruise ships going into the testing process. And then we have this looming question. This is the question I've been thinking about for a few days. We're probably at the end of the summer for widespread vaccination in the United States. I speculated this about 6 months ago. Would it make sense if the cruise lines had enough money to not deal with these health protocols at all? What if they waited until the majority of the population was vaccinated, and then they required only people who had been vaccinated? They only allowed vaccinated people to go on their cruise ship. So you would have a scenario where everybody on the cruise ship could not get the virus or give the virus. In that scenario, would you need health protocols like social distancing and masking and no self-service? If you got to a scenario where people couldn't get the virus and people couldn't give the virus, would you need these other health protocols? And to be honest, all these other health protocols, they're expensive. They're expensive to implement. They're expensive to enforce. There's some people that are against them. And so if they could survive until the end of the summer, if they could survive into the fall without taking any revenue, would it just make better sense to wait until there is a vaccine? I've been struggling with this question because I just don't think that financially they can do it. But the risk that they run is that these health protocols don't work the way that they want them to. And then there's another negative PR event. Something bad happens on a cruise ship, and then that sets cruising back further in the public's eye. How are we striking this balance? Look, we've got all these cruise ships that are working their way through the framework. So that says to me that these cruise lines are going to cruise before there is a vaccine. Part of me is definitely asking the question, is somebody crunching the numbers somewhere going, yeah, maybe we just wait until there's a vaccine in play and we can put more people on the cruise ships so we don't have to do the health protocols? Gosh, if you were the CEO, if you were somebody that can make that decision, what would you do? Would you jump through all of these CDC hoops, or would you wait until there was a vaccine? And look, there's no guarantee that once the vaccine comes out that the CDC hoops go away. The framework for conditional sailing is in place until November 2021 or until they rescind it. So unless you knew for sure that they were going to rescind it once widespread vaccination was in play, look, it's a risky proposition. position. I think the cruise lines, they're going to have to try to sail with the health protocols before there is a vaccine. But yeah, I don't know. What would you do if you were CEO for the day? Okay, that's a bunch of cruise news that I threw at you. Again, commiseration, condolences for people with Norwegian that got your cruise canceled. But the silver lining is there are 30 plus ships trying to make their way through the framework for conditional sailing. There is some motion there. I think that's a good takeaway from today's news. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please show your support by hitting the like button. This is Tony with Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.